Thanks again for supporting the Falling for Learning podcast. New episodes go live every Saturday at 5 p.m. You can
I'm
watch us
going live now.
on youtube.com at Falling for Learning or listen on all major podcast platforms such as Apple, Google, Audible, Spotify, and much more. For more resources, visit fallinginlovewithlearning.com. We really appreciate you. Have a wonderful week.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Ooh, let's make some adjustments, okay? So, welcome to the Falling for Learning podcast. This is episode 74, and I decided to make it live because I've been exhausted. Hopefully you see the gray. So, right, I chose gray hair over the all of the issues that I've been having with my skin, because I think the dye had something to do with it. So here we go. So I hope you're okay, and I'm doing okay, and adjusting to having some gray come in at the front. Why couldn't it be in the back? I don't know, but here it is in the front. Anyway, so this episode today is really special. So it's about your child's first job. So how do we get them going?
Hi, thank you so much for joining the Falling for Learning podcast. We have this podcast to help parents and caregivers with having the resources, strategies, and tools needed to make sure that their children are on track for learning and to stay on track for success.
Okay, here we go. So when we're thinking about your child's first job, we want to talk about laying the foundation for it, right? Because they may not be ready for their first job if we don't give them the skills and information needed. And I know that some of us adults out there have been working with some young people and we're like, what's going on with them? Like they don't have basic skills, they don't understand or whatever. And I also want to tell you, because of where the pendulum is in public education right now, your child may not be getting lessons that you may have learned in school, right? Because we don't have a lot of consequences in school anymore, right? If they're late to class, they may not be penalized for it. Um, Late with work, they're not getting penalized for it. So, teaching them just basic skills about how to conduct themselves on a job is really important. Now, of course, we know that kids are not getting jobs the way that they want to, especially if they don't have any connections, if you're not able to give them a hookup to get hired. So that means that you're laying the foundation with them through volunteer activities as well as, doing odd jobs for family members. That could come in the form of babysitting, it could come in the form of, um, not just babysitting, but also outside jobs, right? Doing the yard, cleaning cars, actually picking up trash, cleaning windows of, the outside of the house or cleaning gutters. So there's all kinds of jobs that you have that you may be passing on to a teen or tween and helping them lay the foundation for their work. So, some really important parts of this is making sure that they understand, right, that their work should have, um, it should have a really attention to detail, right? So, a lot of people know how to get a job done, or, we say done, but when it actually comes to the quality of work, right? Taking time to pay attention to details. If they are sweeping a floor, that they're getting in the corners, they're getting underneath certain things, maybe they're moving things around to make sure that they're not just doing surface level cleaning, right? That they're doing high quality cleaning, that they might need to also do some spot, like if they're just sweeping but they're not mopping, maybe they need to clean up a spot here or there, um, that needs to be, something was dropped. There's a drop here, a little stain on the floor or something. So that kind of thing, right? Sometimes the broom gets a lot of extra dust on it. And this is an opportunity for you to show them how to make sure the broom has dust off of it or a collection of things and get that off so that the cleaning is as high quality as possible. Right? So there's lots of things that we can do for kids to help them ensure that what they're cleaning is high quality. As well as if you say you're going to show up at 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock or four, that you're actually there, that you've actually showed up when you said you were going to be there, right? And not 5:04 or 5:08, but actually 5 o'clock, and being respectful of that time. And if you have to be late, letting people know and being very clear about making up to them the time that you did not do what you asked, what you agreed to do. So a lot of that is a big issue. Also, like if you have a long-term job, like if you're helping to have someone move, that you're not doing like one thing that they tell you to do, and then you're just getting on your phone and then just kind of like looking around or just, right? Instead, making sure that you're busy the whole time, that you're helping to pick this up. And maybe you're asking them, what else do you do? Maybe they could give you three things to do. Okay, so you want me to do this, and what else do you want me to do, and what else do you want me to do after that? So that you're very clear, right? That they are wanting to work and that they are knowing how to stay busy. Make sure that they're helpful. After they finish something, asking someone to check it for them to see if this is actually a good thing that they've done, that this is the quality that they wanted it to be, right? And so those kinds of things are very important, and kids may not know to do that, right? They said, well, you told me to pick this up, so I did, and now I'm on my phone, right? It's like not okay, right? So making sure they know, well, no, your phone either is going to stay in the car, it's going to stay in your pocket, or something, because this is the type of job that they want you to get this job done and not be, just idle. So, just really knowing what the expectations are. Of course, there are some jobs where you just kind of need to stay in a certain location and wait for the phone to answer. If anyone comes in, you greet them, and maybe you can be on your phone. I don't know. There's all types of different jobs out there, but letting them know the expectations, right? And then if you're not sure if you should be on your phone or if you should be doing this or that, asking, right? So, is it okay for me to be on my phone, or what time should I have a break? What time should I have my lunch? All of those things, being responsible. And even if it's just a family member or a family friend that is just like a family member, really knowing that being respectful, being courteous, being kind, paying attention to what they're asking you to do. And if something's unclear, don't be afraid to ask questions. I find a lot of kids may not know what you're talking about, may not know what you want them to do, but they kind of nod and are like, okay. And then actually later on they'll say, oh, I thought you meant this, or instead ask for clarification, right? And that's another thing that uh kids need to know, right? As an adult, you see things a certain way, or you have a certain expectation or an understanding of how things go than a kid does. Kids may not know. They don't have an understanding. They may not know the more, like the norms and expectations when you're on a job or when you're hired to do something. So sometimes kids think, okay, I did a job and they're gone, or they're just like, okay, that person's going to pay me on Monday. So now I'm going to leave. And maybe they don't even say, I'm leaving, I'm gone. They may not say, you know what, is this the way that you want it to be before I go? Because I do want to be paid on Monday. And so today, when I'm here, I want to make sure you let me know what I did right and if there's anything that needs to be corrected so that I can fulfill my obligation and get my pay as, what I'm trying to earn. And so, again, we've talked about you having your child work for a family member, right? But let's talk about parents that have businesses and putting their kids to work for the business. And this actually is a great play that we could talk about another time for helping to build generational wealth, hiring your kids. So I would say give them a regular paycheck. Some things that we did as a kid, my dad had us work on his at his shop. And I, helped create a filing system, file things, answer the phones, which we didn't have a lot of people calling a lot of people, maybe one per hour, maybe even less. And our dad like paid us at the end of the summer, which was very not so motivating, right? So I would really say, make sure they have regular hours and they are paid on a regular basis, a regular interval, because it is motivating to be paid regularly instead of to being paid at the end of a 3 month or 2.5 month summer or whatever. It's not the same as working a real job, and it makes your child want to go work a real job because they're not getting paid regularly from their job. So be aware of these kinds of dynamics that you might say or think about for your child. We didn't have a lot of business coming through, and I think what would have been really good and motivating. And now we have such a different type of economy, right? Kids know how to get online and do social media and reach out to people and all of those things. So I would even say challenge your teen or tween to generate some type of income, either through promotions or different ideas or having a sale on the side to maybe help drive foot traffic to the business. We had an auto body shop in Alaska, which no one really cared about cars that much. That somebody pointed out, I was telling them we had an auto body shop, and they're like, do people really even care about what their vehicle looked like? And I was like, well, no, not really. So my dad did do a lot of mechanic work, but it was called Midway Auto Body Shop. So from the outset, if you're looking to get your car fixed, you probably wouldn't look at Midway Auto Body Shop unless you knew that that just was a place to get your car repaired. It's more for someone who like wants to get after a crash to get the car fixed or something like that. So it's just so interesting, like hindsight, how people like point out things like, you know what, that probably is not a great draw. If it was like a brake shop or an auto repair shop rather than an auto body shop, it might have had more foot traffic just based on that instead of auto body shop, which if their car wasn't like really messed up in a crash, they didn't care that much about making sure their car looked good or fixing a little ding here and there. As a kid, I just want to tell you a little bit about the things that I did. So, I actually um, grew up teaching people how to read, and my aunt and my mom's. It was a nonprofit. They ran out of our church's basement, First Church of God in Christ in Fairbanks, Alaska. I grew up in Alaska, and that is how we got, how I like uh really developed a lot of patience, right? People would be like, you were so patient. But really what it was though is that I really believed in the process of learning how to read, sounding out words, practicing, because it's what I did. That's how I learned how to read, sound by sound, practicing sight words. And, when I saw people were able to sound out words, helping them to, slow down and actually listen to what they're reading, give themselves that grace and look at it again and take the time to sound it out. All right, we're going to hear from our sponsors, which is the Rewrite Method. And there's a new curriculum coming out, and we'll tell you that more after these sponsors.
All over the United States, 75% of children don't know how to write well. Add that to the fact that so many people out there are trying to silence the voices of those who have been oppressed and trying to prevent them from telling their story. Who's going to tell your story? If your child doesn't know how to write well, I have two books to address this issue: The Rewrite Method and The Rewrite Method Workbook, written to make sure that parents know what to do, that educators know what to do to get their children to write better, and just not write better, but love to write. Make sure that your next generation could tell their story and they won't be silenced. Go to fallingforlearning.com today to purchase your set.
Hey. All right. So more work that I did, right? So just learning patience, learning to not be rude to people, to be kind, generous. And also at my church, I also did vacation Bible school, which obviously I was already teaching people or tutoring people. So I did vacation Bible school classes, trying to make things fun and engaging, planning what we're going to do and how we're going to do it with the kids. I actually did that with one of my best friends at the time. Shout out to Rashida Willard, Dr. Rashida Willard. Anyway, so yeah, she moved away. We were like 13, so we have not been in touch really that much, just through social media, very little bit, because I just like got back into my social media in 2023, March 2023 to be exact. But anyway, um, yeah, so those are some of the things that I did for my aunt. I helped her organize some of her paperwork. She was a social worker, and we helped organize her things, declutter some of her things. And again, listening to what she actually wanted, like, is this good? What else should I do? What should I do with this? Really getting direction from her and listening to those details, right? If I said I was going to come, I would come and we would stay and get it done. And we wouldn't be doing a lot of we would stay and work, right? And I would say we, me and my brother, basically were the people who were working. I think my sister was pretty young, so she didn't do a lot of the work with us. Um, so those are the kind of work I did. Of course, I did some babysitting and I sometimes did that with friends or did it by myself. And again, being kind to the kids, listening to their needs, being responsible, not tearing up their house, making sure things were clean, following directions. So those are some things that kids really could benefit from when they are learning how to work, right? Because it's one thing to get a first job, but as you know, kids get fired from jobs. They don't get put on the schedule. They have to find another one. And we want them to be able to not just get that first job, but to keep that first job, right? And then obviously laying the groundwork for their career, because a career, of course, is a job that has long-term benefits. It has, opportunity for advancement, and a career is something like that you choose to do for the long term. Rather, as a job, I think more as something that you're doing just to make money. It's not something that you want to do for years and years and years. But of course, we know that people sometimes get caught into a job that turns into their career, and not because they want to, but because maybe they didn't have all the choices that they wanted to have. And those choices can be limited by their lack of education, their lack of skill, or even their lack of work ethic. So helping to lay that foundation for kids where they really know how to work and get along with people and listen and even lead when it's needed is very important. And we lay the groundwork for our kids for that. Right? We lay the groundwork by letting our kids know what's acceptable, what's quality, what's not quality, right? How to interact with people in a respectful way, in a way that benefits the person that they're interacting with, right? Because when you're working, you're the person who is giving. You're the one who is serving someone else. And of course, the goal is to get money for what you have so you could live the life that you want to lead. And again, if you don't know that, don't know how to do it, it's going to really limit you in your life, even if it's a job that you don't want to do long term, right? My first job where I got paid from someone else on a regular basis, right, was J. Jacobs in the Bentley Mall in Fairbanks, Alaska. So I worked Jake Jacobs during the summer, and I did right before my junior year in high school, and then I did a little bit more work after, during the school year. But being the super studious person that I am, I prioritize my studies over a part-time job where I think I want to say I was making 4.75 an hour. So that was probably 1995, probably. So many, many years ago, working a part-time job at J. Jacobs, learning how to be on time, learning how to be respectful to people, being of service to customers. Even if you don't feel like you're in the greatest mood, putting a happy face on and serving even when you don't feel like it. And I really tell a lot of kids, because I know they're like, teenagers, I can't wait till I become an adult. And I said, really? When you become an adult, you really have real consequences. And like I said, in our school systems, the way they are now, really there aren't a lot of consequences that kids really suffer right now, which can be a travesty because these little lessons that you learn along the way, you get penalized for being late to class and stuff like that. It teaches you to have discipline and be on time. But when we're not teaching those lessons in school, and throughout their young life, they end up learning it a harder way as an adult, where they're getting fired, they're getting written up at work, they're not getting promoted, they're getting laid off because they're not that valuable compared to other workers. Um, and of course, when people get laid off, it's not always their fault, obviously. Um, but it's just like we want to know right now as a parent that you are giving your kids some kind of framework and experience for learning how to be a good worker. And what I do really want to say about this is, of course, we think about work about getting employed by someone else. But I also really want to encourage parents to involve kids or help them to launch businesses, to try out that entrepreneur experience, right? That entrepreneurial experience because as the economy is changing and things are more volatile, there's more discrimination allowed, kind of we take some two steps forward, we take two steps back sometimes when it comes to progress, when it comes to women, when it comes to race and ethnicity, that it is wonderful to be able to control your money, right? That you are going to be able to make more money when you have more customers, or be able to raise prices when you want to and get a raise when you want to, rather than depending on someone else, who owns a business that makes the profit and then decides how much people are getting paid, decides who they're going to promote, who they're going to fire, who they're going to give benefits to or not to give benefits to, make exceptions for, and all of those things. It's really, really important that we're considering helping our kids to find a skill, a trade that can help them to make money for themselves, even if it's on a part time basis, right? It's really important that we are thinking about different streams of income, not just one place income is coming from. Like we're relying on a principal. I'm a teacher, so I think about principals as like, the boss. But we're not relying on like a supervisor or a owner of a business or corporation. Um, and if things go sour and they decide not to hire us or to fire us or whatever, then we're at someone else's mercy to hire us. And before more money comes in, which again, um, could be multiple reasons why you don't get hired. It could be your age, right? See, I'm showing some grace. It could be your, that former employer is leaving not so good reviews or recommendations for you, right? That particular industry could be going downhill. So they could be shedding workers and not needing new workers anytime soon because of the changing economy and technological needs or capabilities. So it is really important to think about what is that one thing, service, or product that you could provide that could actually help you control your own money, bring in some money of your own. Um, and then, multiple ways, multiple streams of income are very important. And helping your child to realize that and helping them to um, start thinking in that way, right? Because, of course, it's a process. They may think, oh, I want to sell um, tennis shoes or whatever. And then they could change multiple times and figure out something that they want to. But because they've gone through the different iterations of a type of business or service that they want to provide, that they are finally come up with something that really works for them. But and a lot of people do this, a lot of companies go through many iterations and many different products and different launches, um, different pivots until they get a winning combination, right? Something that works for them, that's profitable for them, and helps them to thrive in an economy and really ride the wave of profitability and expansion. And even if they can sell that business or that product or that brand later on. So, again, our job as parents is to work ourselves out of a job, right? Making sure that we are the people that are going to be um, cared for by our kids later, or that we would be working ourselves out of a job as well as far as they don't need us. We don't need to rescue them. So helping them to work and find a career or a trade or even start a business that's going to help sustain their lifestyle is really one of the highest priorities that we need to have. And so, if we haven't thought about how we're doing this, it's a good time to start because your kid is going to be working and should be working in some capacity for themselves or for others or in service to others. And so, thank you so much for joining us on the Falling for Learning podcast. This is episode 74. It's live. Thanks for joining us. Please like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, YouTube, all those things, and have a great Thanksgiving weekend because that's the time of year it is. All right. And do something today that your future adult children will thank you for. And now we're going to cue our outro, right? Our outro. Thanks again for supporting the Falling for Learning podcast. New episodes go live every Saturday at 5 p.m. You can watch us on youtube.com at Falling for Learning or listen on all major podcast platforms such as Apple, Google, Audible, Spotify, and much more. For more resources, visit fallinginlovewithlearning.com. We really appreciate you. Have a wonderful week.